If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Are you ready to change your life, but don't know how to start? Is your stress and worries keeping you awake at night? Have you been battling grief, anxiety, or depression all alone? Have you lost touch with your own sense of being or spirituality? Soul Free Therapies offers professional and affordable live video streaming counseling and coaching services from the comfort of your own home. Sessions offered in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Go to our website at www.soul-free.com and book your first session today.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119. PureSoapFlakes.com, 218-568-2525. Have you ever heard of Castile Soap? Pure Soap Flake Company handcrafts fine soap bars, laundry powder, and concentrated soap flakes using organic vegetable oils from their northern Minnesota facility. Bathe your body and wash your clothes with Pure Soap products that are free of fragrance, GMOs, palm oil, sodium lauryl sulfate, and synthetic additives. Keep it clean, folks. Pure Soap Flake Company products are kind to living creatures and sensitive skin, safe for drains and waterways, and work great in high-efficiency washers and top and front-loading machines. They have a little promotion going on. Contact them to order some soap. Mention the Opperman Report. You're going to get a free gift. They're going to send a little extra soap, travel size, soap bars and laundry soap, cleaning soap flakes. I've been using that stuff all day long today. Great stuff. Order today at puresoapflakes.com or give them a call, 218-568-2525, 218-568-2525. Pure Soap Flake Company is a proud member of the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild. If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting through my website, emailrevealer.com. Now, if you like today's show, check out our members section at OppermanReport.com, where we have all kinds of exclusive content that you won't be able to find anywhere else. OppermanReport.com. Then I have a brand new live video podcast every Thursday evening at getvocal.com. That's GETVOKL.com. And we have true crime. It's focused more on true crime on Thursday nights. The True Crime Thursdays over there at getvocal.com. So you can go there, sign up for free, and watch us do the show on video. We also have our free archives at Spreaker.com, and that's where you can find our guest today, Ray Blehar, who's an expert on the Sandusky scandal and all the stuff that went on there at the PSU trials down there and litigation. Mr. Blehar, are you there?
Yes, Ed. Thanks for having me back. Great to be on the show.
Thank you so much. And people should listen to that first show. We did 2 hours, okay? Covered a lot of content and corrected a lot of misconceptions in that case that Mr. Blehar was kind enough to explain to us. Remind the audience, who is Ray Blehar?
Okay, I am now a retired federal analyst. I retired back in 2017, but I spent 32 years in the federal government. Had a job as an assistant inspector general. I did a variety of analytic work. I also was the head of financial management control for a period of years. So my experience runs the gamut of different analytic duties. And then the Sandusky case kind of popped up in 2012, and it had everything that I'd ever done before in the past, because there's financial issues with the case. There's just general analysis that you have to do, legal analysis, where I did a little bit of that as an IG. So this kind of fell into my lap, and I've been doing it ever since.
And what is your involvement with PSU? Are you an alumni of PSU?
I got my MBA from Penn State in 2008. I graduated, actually my undergraduate degree was from a small school in Pennsylvania called Indiana University of Pennsylvania, and I got out of there in 1983. So went back to school in the middle of my life, and I really enjoyed my time at Penn State learning the world of business. So, and then when the Penn State scandal came up, the Penn State connection, of course, was there, but so was all the other analytic background that drew me to the case.
Gotcha. And describe to the audience, what is the Penn State scandal? Most people would know it as the Sandusky child. Yeah, the Second Mile Foundation. Yeah.
Right. Well, we call it the Second Mile Sandusky scandal because that's really the epicenter of the scandal. However, because nobody knew what the Second Mile was, and nobody knew anything about Jerry Sandusky except he was a football coach, it became a Penn State scandal. And the prosecutors wanted it that way because that was their biggest whale they could harpoon, so to speak, the people at Penn State. Joe Paterno, Penn State president, and so they went with that prosecution, and they are still pounding on the Penn State prosecution as we speak today.
Now, the Sandusky trial, the criminal trial, ended in a prosecution, but then there was a series of a civil litigation against the school, right?
Right. His case, the university did not actually go through civil lawsuits. They just more or less set up a fund, and they paid anybody who came in and had a legitimate claim. Some of the claims weren't so legitimate, but they got paid anyway. So about, I think, 36 people came in and filed claims. There were 10 victims at the trial, but only actually 8 live victims because 2 were unknown. And so all 8 of those received settlements, and then I guess you'd have another 28 that came in who didn't go through the trial that got settlements. And so, some of the claims were so outlandish, we couldn't believe that some of them got paid, but they all did. So, anyway, the bottom line is Jerry, he was convicted on 45 of 48 counts. He was acquitted on the most serious and notorious count in the case, the rape that occurred in the Penn State shower. He has lost all of his appeals at the state, and now he is pursuing a Supreme Court appeal of his case.
In your expertise, do you think there's any chance he could win an appeal?
No, I don't think he can win an appeal. I mean, he's basically going on ineffectiveness of counsel, and I really don't see that him making the case.
Yeah, that's hopeless. Yeah, okay, and especially in a case like this. Come on, the guy had a stellar counsel. So now,
the bottom line was that his counsel at trial was really not that bad. There were a few errors that he had made where he may have been able to shift guilt to someone else, and he didn't do that. But his appeal attorney didn't bring that case up, or that incident up. So it was kind of like his appeal attorney was equally incompetent as his trial attorney. So at least that's my opinion.
So now, one of the issues, because you've been sending me all these updates, right, is I guess it's former FBI Director Freeh came in and did an investigation?
Right. Right after the Sandusky trial was over, the Freeh report came out. Now, Louis Freeh got hired in November of 2011, right shortly after the Sandusky grand jury presentment came up, and he spent about 6 months on campus allegedly investigating what was going on. But what we have now found out, based on a diary that was kept by one of Freeh's team members named Kathleen McChesney, and you can find that diary on my website, nottsu.blogspot.com. There's a list of references on the right-hand side, and you can actually read through this woman's diary. And as it turns out, Freeh really was just getting handed information, secret grand jury information, from the prosecutors in the case. He was not discovering any of this evidence that he has claimed to discover. So they basically fed him evidence all along the way. And then after the Sandusky conviction, Freeh came out with his report, and he accused the Penn State president and Joe Paterno and two other administrators, Gary Schultz and Tim Curley, of being in on this cover-up. And then that became the next series of trials that went through the courts to determine if Spanier, Curley, and Schultz were guilty. Paterno was never charged. Paterno died in January of 2012. I don't think he could have ever really been charged with anything because he had fulfilled his obligation, which was his legal obligation, which was to report the incident to his superior. Okay, so getting back to the diary. So the diary, aside from proving that the prosecutors were leaking secret grand jury information to Louis Freeh, the diary has a couple bombshells in it. The first big bombshell is that Penn State made a report to the authorities about Sandusky in 2001. This is what the whole criminal case against Penn State was about, that they failed to report Jerry Sandusky. And right there in the diary, Kathleen McChesney mentions there's an exculpatory email in the Gary Schultz file. Okay? Well, this email's never seen the light of day. It's been suppressed. So that's the big bombshell. All right? These guys were the prosecutors withheld evidence in order to charge Penn State officials.
And this is an exculpatory email that would benefit Paterno?
It would benefit Spanier, Curley, Schultz, and Paterno. Okay, now here's an interesting point. During my investigation around 2013, I got a private message from an anonymous source who claimed that this letter or email existed, that Penn State had provided it to Center County Children and Youth Services and informed them that they had this incident with Sandusky and the kid in the shower, that they had talked to Sandusky and they had notified his charity about it. Okay. So then in I want to say it was about 2016, I was working with a high-ranking government official in the Pennsylvania government, and this official had insights into the Attorney General's office, and this individual told me that same very story, that an email or letter was sent from Penn State to Children and Youth Services to report the 2001 incident. So we have the diary, I have an anonymous source, and I have a very high-ranking government official that all say this notification was made.
Wait, that the notification was made or was not made?
It was made in 2001 to the Children and Youth Services who were responsible for investigating the incident. As it turns out, they never investigated it.
Gotcha. So then your theory of the defense then of these gentlemen at PSU is that, well, hey, if the Family and Children's Services was aware of this, they're the ones that dropped the ball, not us.
Exactly. Right. I've been saying that ever since I was on the case in late 2012. I said, one, I'm pretty sure a report was made and that Children and Youth Services didn't follow up because Children and Youth Services in Pennsylvania has a history of once they clear somebody of child abuse, a repeat complaint gets ignored, okay? And a lot of times, we had a case in Harrisburg, a family, I think, was reported 5 or 6 times to Children and Youth Services. Most of the time, Children and Youth never looked. And then one summer day, they found this child who was 10 years old and weighed 17 pounds, who died of malnutrition in this house that they refused to investigate. So the stories are pretty amazing in Pennsylvania about the failures of Children and Youth Services. So
unfortunately, that's common throughout the country. Unfortunately, it's amazing. One of the most important services we could have in this country, and it's probably the least competent in so many different ways.
Right.
Tragic.
In 2017, the Pennsylvania Auditor General did a report on the Pennsylvania system, and he basically said it was failing, not enough staff, incompetent investigators, over 10,000 calls to the hotline, the child abuse hotline, don't even get answered. Okay. Yeah. And many others get, like the one that Penn State officials made in 2001, just get screened out because they said, hey, we investigated this guy a couple years earlier. Situation sounds the same. We're just not even going to look into it.
Now, earlier when you say that Louis Freeh got all of his information from the prosecutor's office, and he must have at least interviewed Paterno and...
No, he did not interview
Curley?
Paterno. Paterno offered to give him an interview, and Freeh never took him up on it. The two other, Tim Curley and Gary Schultz, the two other administrators involved, they were under criminal charges. They were advised by their attorneys not to be interviewed by Freeh. Freeh did interview Graham Spanier, and he used excerpts out of that interview, the worst stuff he could find, to use that to try to incriminate Spanier, so to speak. But Freeh did not interview the chief of police at Penn State at the time, who was there. He didn't interview the key witness, the eyewitness Mike McQuarrie, who saw the 2001 incident. Basically, Louis Freeh went around and he interviewed Penn State employees that really weren't connected to the case, and he tried to browbeat them into saying bad things about Paterno and Spanier. That was what Louis Freeh's interview at Penn State was all about.
That's fascinating. He said he was there for 6 months. You know how much he was paid?
I believe it was $8.3 million, around there.
Ooh, that's the gig I got to get. Yeah, next time they need it, and that's have them call me up, man. Okay, 6 months, $8 million. What would his motive be for slanting the results of his investigation?
Well, first of all, his firm had just, was just starting out and trying to make a splash. All right. So here they are. I think they originally signed a contract worth $6.5 million to do this investigation. And now the media has already established this narrative of a Penn State cover-up. So what were Freeh's options? If he came out and he said, we looked into this, and these guys are clean. Paterno did the right thing. Spanier did the right thing. The media would have said, Penn State paid Louis Freeh $6.5 million to cook the books on a report. Okay? You know that would have happened. So Freeh, was basically going to go along with the media's version of the scandal because that was the prosecutor's version of the scandal. He was working hand in hand with the prosecution the whole time. Okay? The governor of Pennsylvania had a hand in hiring Louis Freeh. The governor of Pennsylvania wanted the president of Penn State to be fired. Okay? They had a falling out over his gubernatorial campaign in 2010. So Freeh basically came in and was just a hatchet man. All right? He was going to dig up dirt. He was going to find the stuff that makes Penn State look bad. And that's exactly what he did.
Gotcha. Okay, another update you sent me was the incredible shrinking Schultz file. What's going on there?
Okay, again, back to the diary. All right, the Gary Schultz file, and it's probably a misnomer because what I believe it really is a aggregation of the files that they found. When I say they, I say Penn State's attorney at the time, Cynthia Baldwin, who was basically just disciplined for violating attorney-client privilege. She had people go around and find any kind of file on Jerry Sandusky, and Tim Curley, the athletic director, his office had a file on Sandusky. Schultz had a file on Sandusky. And so at the time, Curley was undergoing cancer treatments, and a lot of people didn't think he was going to make it. All right. So basically, they took Curley's information and they shoved it into the so-called Schultz file because they figured Schultz is the guy we're going to have to go after to flip. Okay, for him to go and incriminate Spanier because, frankly, they were not finding any evidence against Spanier. So anyway, the Schultz file, according to the diary, all right, people are discussing it on Freeh's team, and they were saying, there was a lot more in this file, okay, when we saw it on this date than it was when we saw it, on the next date. What happened to all this information that was allegedly in the file? Well, the prosecutors and Penn State's attorney skinnied the file down to just inculpatory information, all right, stuff that made Penn State officials look bad. And one of the interesting things that came out of the Spanier trial, the president of Penn State's trial, was the prosecutors lauded Gary Schultz because he was a great note taker. All right. Yet there were all these meetings that were held between, McQueary, Curley and Schultz had a meeting. Schultz had another meeting with McQueary's father and a doctor. Schultz had another meeting with Spanier on another day. Yet there's no notes from any of these other meetings. Okay. What are the chances that Schultz didn't take notes in the meeting with the eyewitness? All right. I would say that's slim to none. All right. And so the eyewitness's account, Mike McQueary's account's all over the place. One time he says he looked in the shower 3 times, and other times he says it's twice. He said that he, went into detail to make sure these guys knew it was a sex act. Then he says, well, I didn't use any sexual words. So we believe, or I believe, and now the diary seems to confirm that these detailed notes that Schultz would have that either confirm or deny McQueary's story were pulled out of the file. Okay, so that's what we mean by the shrinking Schultz file.
I got 2 questions for you. One is McCleary. It's McCleary or McQueary?
McQueary.
McQueary. Okay.
MCQ. Yes.
The witness, the eyewitness, right? Now,
yes.
I can understand why, if you're a defendant, like Schultz and these other guys, if you're a defendant, you don't want to talk to Freeh. But why wouldn't Freeh talk to McQueary?
The prosecutors would not allow him to talk to McQueary.
Okay, the prosecutors didn't allow that. Okay. And has he ever given a statement to Freeh or any? Has he ever given a statement to you?
Who, McQueary?
Yeah.
No, he's never given I don't think he's ever really given a public statement. He wanted to give a public statement. This is a good story. Right after the grand jury presentment came out, and it said that he had witnessed a rape, and then he went home and called his father, left the scene. He wanted to correct the record. He said, well, that's really not what happened. I really wasn't sure I saw a rape. My dad wasn't around that night. And there's emails that confirm this. And the prosecutors told him, no, we really don't want you to correct the record. And then the prosecutor, Janelle Eschbach, said when she was questioned this was at Sandusky's appeal hearing, she said, I didn't want him to correct the record because I didn't want him to, ruin my case, right? So, yeah, he wanted to correct the record, and the prosecutors told him he wasn't allowed to do it.
Has he done any interviews?
He did an interview with Sports Illustrated, or not Sports Illustrated. ESPN did a big story. Don Van Natta wrote it. But that's the extent of his interview, and there really wasn't a lot of meat in there, as to, any kind of insights or anything that would, change the story at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to get into it myself and hear what he has to say now. Now, you keep mentioning this diary of Kathleen McChesney, right?
Yeah.
A couple of questions. And people can get a hold. Is that entire diary on your blog there at notpsu.blogspot.com? The entire diary?
Yes, it is. It's on the right-hand side. You'll see I have a page view counter, and then we have links. And that diary is the first link on the list of links.
Okay.
So then, one McChesney diary.
And then explain to us, who is McChesney?
Kathleen McChesney was a former FBI agent who, after her retirement from the FBI, went to work for Louis Freeh in his consulting firm. So she had done an investigation into the Roman Catholic Church scandal. So she came in with that experience. And of course, she was trying to, let's say, force fit the Roman Catholic Church experience onto Penn State, meaning, Catholic Church, obviously, they had documents and files and everything else that pointed to them knowing and covering it up. And she wanted that to be the same at Penn State, but the documents and files just weren't there. The files that they tried to use that proved a cover-up could only prove a cover-up with the benefit of hindsight. Okay, but if you read the files from the time they're written contemporaneously in 1998 and 2001, there's nothing there that would even tell you that there was a sexual assault or a sex act or anything like that. So
now, how did you obtain Kathleen McChesney's diary?
That diary was like many other things, like the Pentagon Papers. It was leaked.
Really?
Okay? Yes. So the Penn State, because of this controversy, Penn State alumni kind of rose up and started putting people on the Board of Trustees that wanted to get to the bottom of the scandal. So to get to the bottom of the scandal, they actually had to file a lawsuit to get access to the source materials used by Louis Freeh. Now, this was among the source materials that were not allowed to be disclosed publicly, but somebody decided that they were going to leak this diary out, and it became public. It went to a fellow named Ralph Cipriano, who used to work for Newsweek and now runs a blog called BigTrialBlog.net. I think it's BigTrial.net. Anyway, out of Philly. So he handed the diary to me. So,
no, just to clarify, the diary was first an exhibit. It was like a sealed exhibit, and then it got leaked out. And we're talking about the actual physical diary or scans of the diary?
It's it's a scan. I mean, she typed it up on a word processor.
Gotcha.
So, and then when Freeh's team handed in their source material, here were these pages of her diary, and typed up, and that's what got leaked out.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, what does she have? Has she made a statement about the contents of this diary and stuff that could conflict with their official report?
Oh, no, she's not made any statement whatsoever.
Fascinating. Locally, does your the way you account, your accounting of these events locally, is this played up a lot in Pennsylvania?
In Pennsylvania, the trial happenings get publicity. Any of the stuff that I write on the blog, the media typically tends to ignore. So that's just how it is.
Even the local media that must somehow still be supportive of Penn State.
Oh, no, the local media was in the bag for the Pennsylvania government. I mean, it was incredible. The Harrisburg Patriot News won a Pulitzer Prize for its coverage, and they called it the Penn State scandal. And I went back and I looked at the 13 columns or so that they submitted to the Pulitzer Committee, and there were errors all through them, blatant falsehoods. It was terrible what they did. So, and the local media, I mean, Harrisburg Patriot News was the lead dog on the case, and everybody else just followed their lead. Okay. And so that's how we got to where we are today. And it's like the media today. I mean, one day we just went through, 3 years of Russiagate. And, there's no corrections or rarely any retractions made. I mean, what was wrong yesterday? Well, we just forget about it. So nobody's gone back and written a retraction or an apology, unlike in the Richard Jewell case where Kathy Scruggs actually wrote an apology to Richard Jewell for, screwing his life up. None of the reporters today do anything like that.
Gotcha. Okay, this would be a good time to take a little commercial break. We are with Ray Blehar, and he's telling us about all the litigation surrounding the Penn State University that culminated from the conviction of Jerry Sandusky in the Second Mile child abuse case. We'll be back with more of Ray Blehar. His website, his blog is called notpsu.blogspot.com. And tons and tons of information on these guys. Have been working on this like a dog with a bone for how many years has this been? Like 10 years now, right?
It's getting close. It's like 2012. So, yeah, we'll be coming up on 8.
This is quite a while. Okay, and don't forget, you can find me at getvocal.com on a Thursday evening, 7 p.m. We're having our second show, and we have Pierce Rebman coming on to talk about the Jeffrey Epstein case. We'll be right back with more of Ray Blehar right after these messages. And Ray, I forgot to tell you, but this commercial is going to be 3 minutes long. Okay, so you got plenty of time to go get a drink or whatever you want to do. We'll be right back with more of Ray Blehar. And now a word from our sponsors. If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents, they handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law.
Are you ready to change your life, but don't know how to start? Is your stress and worries keeping you awake at night? Have you been battling grief, anxiety, or depression all alone? Have you lost touch with your own sense of being or spirituality? Soul Free Therapies offers professional and affordable live video streaming counseling and coaching services from the comfort of your own home. Sessions offered in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Go to our website at www.soul-free.com and book your first session today.
Have you ever thought about opening your own mobile cart or kiosk business? Maybe the facility you manage could establish new revenue by adding coffee, food, or retail services. Cart King International can be the answer to your needs. Cart King is a North American designer and manufacturer of the finest mobile coffee, food, and retail carts and kiosks. Cart King has been working with clients and corporations across North America for 20 years, providing innovative designs, custom manufacturing, and timely delivery. Carts and kiosks are fun, and so are the dozens of designs on our website. Please visit us today at www.cart-king.com or just call us at 1-877-986-7771 and get your sales rolling.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. An AquaDam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an AquaDam can do the job. An AquaDam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An AquaDam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An AquaDam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give AquaDam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119. PureSoapFlakes.com, 218-568-2525. Have you ever heard of Castile Soap? Pure Soap Flake Company handcrafts fine soap bars, laundry powder, and concentrated soap flakes using organic vegetable oils from their northern Minnesota facility. Bathe your body and wash your clothes with Pure Soap products that are free of fragrance, GMOs, palm oil, sodium lauryl sulfate, and synthetic additives. Keep it clean, folks. Pure Soap Flake Company products are kind to living creatures and sensitive skin, safe for drains and waterways, and work great in high-efficiency washers and top and front-loading machines. They have a little promotion going on. Contact them to order some soap. Mention the Opperman Report. You're going to get a free gift. They're going to send a little extra soap, travel size, soap bars and laundry soap, cleaning soap flakes. I've been using that stuff all day long today. Great stuff. Order today at puresoapflakes.com or give them a call, 218-568-2525, 218-568-2525. Pure Soap Flake Company is a proud member of the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. The show is brought to you by KMDLaw.com. We're here today with Ray Blehar. His website is called notpsu.blogspot.com, and he's telling us all the behind-the-scenes litigation in the Jerry Sandusky second mild child abuse case that spilled over onto Penn State University. Mr. Blehar, one of the other things you sent me more recently was about the Fina and Baldwin. Frank Fina had his law license suspended?
That's correct, for a year and a day, meaning he has to reapply to the board to get his law license back, and that was because he was not remorseful about what he did. So Baldwin, she did not. Fina was the prosecutor in the Jerry Sandusky case, and he also was investigating Graham Spanier and Penn State administrators Curley and Schultz before he left and handed it off to somebody else. Baldwin was the representing Curley and Schultz and Spanier for a time, but she claimed that she was representing Penn State because all of their interests were the same. That was her defense, but the disciplinary board rejected her defense, saying that on numerous occasions the defendants, Curley, Schultz, and Spanier, referred to her as their personal attorney, and she never corrected them. So yeah, she was actually working to undermine them from, I'd say, around October 2010 up until the time that she left Penn State sometime in 2012.
Okay, now clarify for me, please. So Cynthia Baldwin was an attorney that was retained by Penn State.
She was their general counsel, the university's general counsel.
And
so
Curley,
yeah,
and Curley and Schultz.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Curley and Schultz were under the assumption that she was representing them personally.
Yes.
That she was representing their interests.
That's what they believed.
Did she do anything to not act in their best interest?
From day one.
Okay, what did she do?
So in December 2010, she was provided subpoenas. Penn State had gotten a subpoena for records, and the three men had gotten subpoenas to appear before a grand jury. When I say the three men, this was at the time Paterno, Curley, and Schultz. Baldwin never really informed them about what this whole grand jury was about. She just said it was about Jerry Sandusky and some incidents he had with the kids. She never really told these guys when it happened. She said around 2002. She never told them to search for documents. And then when they went to the grand jury, she did not allow them to talk to each other. She did not allow them to get together to refresh their recollections on the story, on what happened. So these guys went in there essentially unprepared to talk to a grand jury, and then when they made statements that weren't quite true or contradictory, then they were charged with perjury. Now, interestingly, they went to the grand jury, I believe it was January 11th of 2011. On January 3rd, the police report from Penn State was uncovered, and so that had information that they used to question Schultz. And that's how they kind of set perjury traps for him, because he oversaw the university police. And, of course, she had a copy of it, but she never told Schultz she had a copy of it or shared it with Schultz before he testified. So you can see her interests are not with her. She's not representing these guys at all.
Well, but didn't these men have their own personal attorneys in their own life with other projects and things they were involved in that they could speak to? And wouldn't that attorney tell them, hey, that's not your attorney?
They never had a reason to. These guys were, honest as the day is long. They never had a legal brush in their lives. They didn't have a personal attorney.
And
so
they
all
weren't,
just said,
they weren't savvy enough. They weren't savvy enough to realize, though, that hey, maybe I should go out and find my own attorney that represents my interests. These aren't young men; these are accomplished men.
Yeah, you sound like the grand jury judge.
Sorry, but you know what I mean, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, but these guys, honestly, they thought, she had downplayed this whole thing. She said this is the third or fourth grand jury that they've had. They're on a fishing expedition. Don't worry about it. Nothing, I can represent you. And so they just took the path of least resistance and thought, okay, we'll let her do it. The only guy who didn't do it was Paterno. Paterno had a son who was an attorney.
Right.
Who he used his son plus another guy, I can't remember, Joshua somebody or other, pretty good attorney, and he used them to represent him at the grand jury. And of course, Baldwin was furious that Paterno had retained a counsel other than her, because then she didn't know what Joe was going to say. So anyway, yeah. So she had undermined them from the beginning. I've written on this quite a bit. We believe, based on the evidence, particularly the questioning at the grand jury, that she had accumulated all this information about Sandusky, and it was used to question Schultz and Curley and Paterno. And you can tell most of the information. Schultz gets way more questions than anybody else. Okay, but then they ask Curley a few questions like, "Did you consult with Gary Schultz? Did you ask him this? Did you ask him that?" Which indicates, based on the evidence, that she had some of these handwritten notes from Gary Schultz that she had turned over to prosecutors prior to the grand jury. So, and then these notes that they had obtained back in January 2011, Louis Freeh actually claimed to have found them, okay, during his investigation. So that's another fallacy that Louis Freeh made, that he had been this crack investigator that uncovered the notes that Schultz had hidden away. Well, the reality was Schultz was retired. He wasn't even working at Penn State when the investigation started, so he didn't hide anything. So that's how Baldwin undermined her clients, Curley, Schultz, and then eventually Spanier. Now, in Spanier's case, she had Schultz's emails that were between him and Spanier, And so they were able to question Spanier about certain emails and things like that would be able to, then they would be able to charge him with perjury for lying to a grand jury.
What was Frank Fina's misbehavior that caused him to have his license suspended for 1 year?
Okay, so when they were going after Spanier, this was after the Sandusky trial. So the Freeh report's an important piece of the puzzle here, because the Freeh report was supposed to be the thing that was going to be so damning and so incriminating. Gary Schultz and Tim Curley were going to flip on Spanier. They were going to blame everything on Spanier. It was all Spanier's idea not to report Sandusky. That's what was supposed to happen, okay? But these two guys held firm, and they basically said, the Freeh report's, it's BS. We're laughing at it. This isn't even halfway correct, because they know about the evidence. And then, so Fina, without any other choice, he threatens to file criminal charges against Baldwin for obstructing justice, so for not turning over the evidence to him, okay? Because now Freeh has gone public and said he found the evidence, all right? So now Baldwin can't refute Freeh, okay? So she's caught between a rock and a hard place. So she goes in and says, okay, I didn't know anything about, the defendant's behavior until Louis Freeh found all this information. So she's lying through her teeth. And then Fina says, okay, Judge, I need to question her more, but we have an issue with attorney-client privilege that I don't want to get into right now, because he didn't believe there was privilege, okay, because she was representing Penn State. They were using crime fraud exception and this, that, and the other thing to say there was no privilege. And so he said, we can revisit that down the road. Then he got her under oath at a grand jury and went right to questions that violated attorney-client privilege. And so, boom. People filed a complaint against him. I think there was a disciplinary hearing board or a Supreme Court appeal that the judges on that panel slapped him down for violating privilege. That's when they dismissed. They dismissed maybe 25, 26 charges that were filed, like all the obstruction, all the conspiracy charges against the three Penn State guys, because it was all based on these privileged conversations. So what they were left with after they dismissed the charges based on the violation of privileges were like endangering a child and conspiracy to endanger a child. So these guys were down to 2 counts each after everything was thrown out because of the violation of privilege.
There seems to be 8 years worth of legal maneuvering here, right? By very powerful people with some type of. But what do you think that agenda is?
Okay, at a minimum, all right. At a minimum, all right. The agenda was protect the second mile, all right. Now, why do we want to protect the second mile? In the most benign version, Senator Jake Corman from Pennsylvania, a Republican, prominent guy who was not yet, the head of the Senate, but he was an up-and-comer. He was on the board of the Second Mile in 2009 when the board decided that Jerry Sandusky would allow to be continue his work with the charity while under investigation for sex abuse of children. Okay, so that's pretty much why there was foot dragging on this investigation by the state government. All right, they're saying if we let this thing drag, we can get it past the statute of limitations. So Corman's off the hook. Okay, he can't be charged with any decision that the board of the Second Mile made to allow Sandusky to continue accessing children while he was under investigation. So that's the most benign version,
right,
of why the state government did that. Okay, at worst, Second Mile was a child sex trafficking operation, okay, that was used by the rich and powerful of Pennsylvania, okay, and there's plenty of financial data that points to that being the case.
And at the same rich and powerful people of Pennsylvania are the ones behind all this obstruction of justice and maneuvering here and framing people over to Penn State and causing conflicts of interest. And all of these people are untouched. The ones who are really...
untouched.
Yeah.
Now, the former Attorney General, Kathleen Kane, you might have heard of her because she was removed from office and disbarred over the alleged conspiracy to leak, I want to get this right, criminal investigative information to the press. All right. Well, actually, she was framed, by the same people like Frank Fina and Tom Corbett and Bruce Beamer and the rest of these people in the Attorney General's office because she was investigating the Sandusky investigation, and she concluded, or her investigators concluded, that, these guys weren't following any leads. They weren't getting warrants to Sandusky's house. They weren't doing anything for 2 years. They just let this thing languish, and they didn't know why, Their investigators, for some reason, couldn't figure out, like what I figured out, although Foreman's on the board of Second Mile, or maybe it's sex trafficking or something else. But anyway, she gets thrown under the bus by the same corrupt network of people. But during the time she was investigating, what did she find? She found pornography on the government computers of people like Frank Fina, Randy Feathers, other state policemen on the investigation, judges, FBI agents. So there were all of these ex parte communications that involved at a minimum off-color jokes, at worst pornography, traded between judges and prosecutors.
This is shocking. I've never heard of this before. And is this involving that prosecutor was found dead with the locked up laptop?
What's that?
Well, there was a DA there that was found dead by a river or body of water with a laptop.
Yeah, that's Ray. Yeah, that's Ray Griecar.
Yeah.
And he was found dead in 2005. There is a possible connection between his disappearance and this case because he was investigating another pedophile in the Center County area at the time he went missing.
Gotcha.
So it could be that he was going to uncover a pedophile network and he got disappeared because of it.
Ray, we're out of time, We're out of time. Ray Blehar, the blog is called notpsu.blogspot.com. What do you want to leave us with in a minute or two?
Well, the bottom line here is some very powerful people in Pennsylvania government hired Louis Freeh to come in and basically frame Penn State for enabling Sandusky's crimes when they were not enablers. They were just people who did not know that Jerry Sandusky was a pedophile.
Now, people should go back to our first interview I did with Ray Blehar, where we spent 2 hours going over this case in really minute detail. And what you'll find is now, if you listen to that show first and you listen to this update tonight, you'll hear that many of the things that he was claiming back then have come out to be true with the discovery of these suspensions and this diary that came out. Mr. Blehar, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Ed. Hope to talk to you again.
Thank you, sir. And now a word from our sponsors. OppermanReport.com. Hey, do you like what you're hearing? Do you like the work that you see us doing here at Opperman Report? You can support that work by becoming a member at OppermanReport.com. And as you have access to over 200 exclusive shows and interviews that you can't find on YouTube or Spreaker or iHeart or iTunes or KYAH. You can't find them anywhere else online, exclusive to our member sections, to our members. Also, too, there's images, videos, documents, court docs. And don't forget, you can hear your ad played here on the Opperman Report, reach hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people on a daily basis because the show is repeated every day all over the world. Contact me at operatreport@gmail.com and I'll give you a good deal on advertising rates.
Have you ever thought about opening your own mobile cart or kiosk business? Maybe the facility you manage could establish new revenue by adding coffee, food, or retail services. Cart King International can be the answer to your needs. Cart King is a North American designer and manufacturer of the finest mobile coffee, food, and retail carts and kiosks. Cart King has been working with clients and corporations across North America for 20 years, providing innovative designs, custom manufacturing, and timely delivery. Carts and kiosks are fun, and so are the dozens of designs on our website. Please visit us today at www.cart-king.com or just call us at 1-877-986-7771 and get your sales rolling.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119.
Are you ready to change your life, but don't know how to start? Is your stress and worries keeping you awake at night? Have you been battling grief, anxiety, or depression all alone? Have you lost touch with your own sense of being or spirituality? Soul Free Therapies offers professional and affordable live video streaming counseling and coaching services from the comfort of your own home. Sessions offered in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Go to our website at www.soul-free.com and book your first session today.
If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents. They handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law. PureSoapFlakes.com. 218-568-2525. Have you ever heard of Castile Soap? Pure Soap Flake Company handcrafts fine soap bars, laundry powder, and concentrated soap flakes using organic vegetable oils from their northern Minnesota facility. Bathe your body and wash your clothes with Pure Soap products that are free of fragrance, GMOs, palm oil, sodium lauryl sulfate, and synthetic additives. Keep it clean, folks. Pure Soap Flake Company products are kind to living creatures and sensitive skin, safe for drains and waterways, and work great in high-efficiency washers and top and front-loading machines. They have a little promotion going on. Contact them to order some soap. Mention the Opperman Report. You're going to get a free gift. They're going to send a little extra soap, travel size, soap bars and laundry soap, cleaning soap flakes. I've been using that stuff all day long today. Great stuff. Order today at puresoapflakes.com or give them a call, 218-568-2525. 218-568-2525. Pure Soap Flake Company is a proud member of the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild.